Welcome back, my friends, for another fun video. Today we have a range report for the first time in about a month. Here's some of the sorted brass I ended up with, but I've got some range footage and all that fun stuff, so I'll try and weave that in as appropriate. But we'll just start with our first target here when we're testing our 3 different Lee bullet molds and testing those against a full metal jacket of an equal weight. So first up was the Lee 356 124 2R, and that was sent in by a viewer named Chuck. We had a video on loading these up, so go check that out. And here's what we ended up with. You'll see I have a trend all day of kind of grouping to the left, and we'll also notice that pretty much all of our groups are going to be the same size, but everything functioned just perfectly. We have nice round holes. We don't have any keyholing or anything like that, and this is what it looked like out there. What's up, folks? We're at the range today. I am collecting a bit of brass. This is 10 minutes of work over here from the berm. Since, you know, every gun ejects out to the right, it all just collects on this hill because no one picks it up. And today, we are testing our 9mm cast bullet loads. I'm going to shoot these on paper, and I've already been shooting all these at some steel earlier. I have some guys next to me over here shooting steel, so I came over to the paper so we can get some of these. Hopefully I can keep them grouped well enough to stay on their individual target there, but we shall see. So there's our first group with the with Chuck's 356 124 2Rs, and then I just spent another 10 minutes picking up some brass, so we are up to here now. And I'm not worried about getting all that grass and crap out of there. I'm going to run it through the hose with some dishwater when I get home and just swish the bucket around. All that dead stuff will just float to the top. I'll skim it off, and then we can sort our brass from there and further clean and polish them after that. Up next, we went for the Lee 356 124 grain tumble lube truncated cone. These were sent in by Booze and Bullets. And this is actually the second time I've tested these, and they've functioned perfectly both times. And again, here we'll take a look at our grouping. All 5 shots in about the same amount of space, but again, slightly to the left. And again, that's just me. Next up, we have our Booze and Bullets 124 Tumble Lube truncated cone. And we are testing out my wife's new Springfield Hellcat today. Came with a 12 and a 13 round magazine. And this thing actually fits my hand really well for being a compact. So let's try out these 124s here. So here we have the 356 124 TLTC. You can see I'm just pulling to the left today, but it's pretty much the same group between the 2 bullets. This one is making a nicer hole in the paper, if that matters for you guys. And yeah, next up are the 124 full metal jackets, but I'm going to spend another 10 minutes picking up brass, and I will get back with you. So if you remember, I previously said I can just pat my hand on the ground and brass will pop out. That's what I'm doing right here, because it just sinks into the berm after a couple of weeks or whatever, and they mow over it, and nobody picks anything up from here. So there's even some lead. I've been grabbing that too. But yeah, 9mm all day, lots of 40, lots of 45, a couple random things like some 357.6, some 5.7. Lots of steel crap I just toss into the gravel, so someone might end up picking it up. Oh, there's a 5.7. So yeah, it's about time to get back to the shooting. Third, we had the 124 grain full metal jacket, and this isn't exactly it that I'm holding here. This is actually a 115 grain, but you get the picture. Here was our grouping, again at 9-ish yards. We've got 3 here, a little high and left around 9 o'clock, and then 2 more off the paper again. So we just shot the full metal jackets, and as you can see, I'm still just jerking hard left. And we have these 5 here. Again, it's the same size group all day regardless of the bullet. That's just me not knowing how to shoot. And so here was after another 10 minutes of brass picking up and I actually went to the berm behind the targets, and we're collecting some range scrap as well. Lots of jacketed stuff, but there are a couple powder coated bullets in here, so someone else knows what's up. And lastly, for our cast bullet Lee shootout, this was my 356 125. I use this for 38 special and 9mm just to have sort of a universal mold. And we'll take a look at these here. We'll notice again, high and left, and only two of them made it, actually three. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5 are over here. We'll see that in the footage here real quick. And finally, the 358 125s here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I really stretched them out there. I've been here for maybe 2 hours picking up crap out in the sun. It's roughly 11:30. And I've had a lot of caffeine, so all the excuses that you can think of for me pulling left on every single shot today. So we're behind the targets here on the berm, just picking up some lead, and it would help if I had a sifter, but I'm kind of going for low impact here, so I'm not pissing anyone off. I did already ask the range officer if it was cool if I went behind the targets, and he's like, yeah, as long as nobody's shooting, that's fine. So there's only been one group of guys out here next to me, and I let them do their thing for about 45 minutes. Come on. And then, you know, I was just picking up brass. I took a few shots during that time. Sorry, my camera work is total crap right now. I'm actually trying to stare at bullets. But here we probably have, I would say, 10 pounds of range scrap at this point. I'm just going up and down the hill and then moving a few feet to the left as I work my way down. Damn it, keep dropping them. But I drop one, it rolls into another, so then I find two at the same time. And sometimes I can't tell if they're actually lead, they might be gravel, but when I go to flux it and ingotize everything, it will, all that crap will float to the top and I'll be left with nice, fresh range scrap. So I would have picked the middle here if we had a fourth target. I could have just put a sticker on it or drew a circle with a Sharpie or something, but hey, we've got what we've got here. And overall, they all functioned flawlessly. They all grouped roughly the same. And if there were any difference, it was all on my part. And maybe, just maybe, I need to try to align my sights on the new pistol. We've only put 200 rounds total through it at this point. We can see on the target I noted 100% function, only 130 rounds fired total. So at the time of this target, I'd only done 130. And then I had a few left to finish up the day with these targets here. And so here are these two targets. This was my sort of reloading drill or something, whatever you want to call it. You just have one loaded with the magazine in your gun, and then you have another magazine on standby. Fire the first round, eject your empty magazine, reload, and then you fire your second one. I was just alternating between these targets. I have it numbered 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. You'll see on the video where they're at. Again, pretty much centered, if not left. So whether or not that's me or the pistol, I'll have to let my wife or someone else shoot it, and we'll see where it's hitting for them. But again, 100% function, which I'm totally happy with. We've got it all cleaned up and scrubbed and everything, and it looks and runs just fine. So I've just been doing some reloading drills where you have one in the magazine and then one in another magazine. You take a shot and you have to reload and take your other shot. So that's me just going between the two targets there. Someone had this interesting design. So that's pretty cool. So far, you know, we got maybe a gallon or two full of pistol brass. And again, maybe 15 to 20 pounds of range scrap. I was function testing my Bear Creek Arsenal. Just function testing it. I just got it back from them for the warranty work they were doing on it. And there's 4 shots at 9 yards. It actually functioned and worked as expected. So I'm going to use the rest of these 10 rounds I've got and head home after this. And then lastly, I was function testing the 350 Legend upper. And so here's the target from that. We were again at 9 yards just on the pistol range. And I was just resting right on the wooden bench there. I was holding here for actually 5 shots I took. But for like the second shot, I think I aimed at this hole instead of this hole. So the second one is actually way down here. And I'm pretty certain it would have grouped just with them, except I'm an idiot and didn't aim at the correct spot. So we had 4 shots right here, 100% function. Everything is good since we got it sent in and back from Bear Creek. So that makes me really excited that we can start reloading for the 350 Legend now. I have a ton of different bullets to try out. I've got a couple different sets of brass that we can play with, and I'm excited to get into the 350 Legend here. So stay tuned for that. Here are the 5 pieces of brass we shot through the 350 Legend. I just stuck them back on the magazine here so I didn't get them mixed in. I actually got these from a buddy at work. He was like, "Hey, you shoot that 350 Legend, brother?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. I finally got my upper fixed, but I ain't got nothing to shoot in it." He's like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." So he walks out to his truck and grabs me 5 of these out of his truck. He had some Winchester 180 grain, I think, but they fed and fired flawlessly. You'll see back in the footage that I'm an idiot and held on the target incorrectly, but they all would have gone in the same hole. All of our brass looks just fine except this one. They all look fine except this one. I don't know if it got jammed up on the way out, but I should be able to straighten that up with an expanding die, and hopefully we can salvage this brass here. As far as pressure signs, everything looks just fine. Nice rounded primers. It's good to know that they hopefully straightened out their case length issue they had early on. But that does it as far as targets go. It was pretty uneventful. However, I did get to test all of those rounds, and having perfect function makes me happy. So now that we're done with targets, here's what I found as far as brass. I didn't make it to the rifle range, so we only have pistol stuff to check out. This is all 9mm with commercial head stamps that don't have a crimp. Over here are the NATO head stamps that do have crimped primers. And those are the ones that I'm going to trade off or sell first. And these I'm going to polish up and put into my stockpile because I don't have to worry about the primer pockets. Next up, we've got a bucket of 45 ACP. I already had some of this. It was maybe a third of the amount that we have now, but probably got a couple hundred pieces of 45 ACP. And then we did about just as much as far as 40 S&W goes. So I did have a little bit of this already set aside, but here we've probably tripled the amount of that. So a couple hundred pieces of 40. And then I have a miscellaneous bucket back here where I've got maybe a little bit of 380, some 5.7, a little bit of 357 SIG, a few pieces of 10mm, just random stuff like that that I could eventually make a set of once I get more of each one of those. But until then, I just have a miscellaneous bucket piling up over there. Here was the lead I was able to acquire from the berm. On the scale, it reads 14 pounds. 14 ounces, but that's with the container here. So once we flux everything and get those jackets sorted out, we'll probably have 10 to 12 pounds of usable lead, which for me, that's perfect. That's more than I came in with. And that's a couple hundred to 1,000 bullets that I didn't have before. And this whole time I'm bending over, picking this up one at a time, I'm just wishing that I had Walter's kitty pooper scooper to get all these little bullets out of the dirt. But as you can see, lots of lead, bunch of jackets in there too, but again, no problem. And for all of you who were observant when I said I didn't get to the rifle range and you saw this brass, this is because I mentioned that I'm opt to trade off the NATO head stamp 9mm for a whole bunch of 223 or 556 brass. So thanks to the Reloading Discord, actually, the buy-sell trade page, that's probably the only useful part of the Discord anymore because the notifications, there's 30,000 people fighting over primers or whatever, and they're still paying ridiculous amounts for it. Regardless, the buy-sell trade page is still pretty useful. So I said, I have 30 pounds of 9mm brass. I want 30 pounds of 223 brass. And the very next day, I got a message. He's like, hey, I'll see what I can fit in a medium flat rate box, and then you can do the same, and we'll just send them to each other. So I ended up with 22 pounds of 556 brass here. Up here is mixed head stamps that are not Lake City. This filled up, so I had to start a Ziploc over here. These are Norma or TAC. They're Norma TAC. It's kind of their lower end stuff, but it is Norma, so I can make a set out of it. If I want to make a specific load or something, I can designate it by that head stamp more easily. These are all federal varieties like FC 223 or FC NT 556, all their varieties. Over here is another large bucket. This is all Lake City. This is what I'm going to process first and put into my stockpile. And then I'll probably do the miscellaneous stuff. I have a pile for that as well. But Lake City is what I normally keep and shoot as far as 223 goes. I'll eventually have a pile that I set aside for 300 blackout if I want to convert some of those. Next up, we have a couple of recent acquisitions we've managed to pick up locally. First up, we've got a 62 grain Full Metal Jacket boat tail from Mid-South Shooter Supply. This is one of their Hornady bulk bullets. I think it was like $30 or $32 or something for 250. Not a horrible price. I have shot these before, but dang it, I need some more of them. Next up, also from Mid-South Shooter Supply, they had these Soft Point 62 grains. So I'm excited to test out these against the Full Metal Jackets, and we had the 500 pack. That's all they had available, so I jumped on those. Those will be pretty awesome. Maybe I can get a good coyote or deer load or something out of that. So as far as 5.56 goes, we've got these to look forward to with some load development. And since we've mentioned the 350 Legend, here's a couple of boxes I've managed to grab. The Hornady Interlock, item 3501, the 170 grain soft point. Also, somewhat recently, I was able to find some of these pistol primers, the Unis Genix from Bosnia. I've never used them. Apparently, they're a little on the harder side, so who knows? I'm not going to tell you where I found them or what I paid, but I have a new brick of pistol primers. You know, if they don't work on my semi-autos, I can always use them in the revolvers, so that's no issue for me. And hopefully we can get some decent results out of these and maybe some useful information for you guys that have seen them on the market but have never heard anything about them. I like the packaging. Unis Genix something something Bosnia. Yes, very nice. Flammable. Keep away from your children, okay? They might have a lot of fun reloading and shooting all your ammo. And finally, we have one more item. The brass guy with that got my 9mm and I got the 5.56 from him. We were both satisfied with the transaction and I was like, hey, do you have any more brass? Because I have some more brass. So we ended up swapping another 22 pounds of 5.56. So if my math is right, it's roughly 1,500 pieces. Probably the same head stamps as last time. Lots of CBC, Lake City, IMI, all your NATO stuff. So that'll be fun prepping all of that and sorting that stuff. And if you're having hard times finding stuff that you need, remember you can always trade your brass amongst other reloaders. There's always ways to get components other than just straight up money off of a website. But that's for another discussion. You guys all know this. So there you go, folks. That was our recent range trip and recent acquisitions. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. We will see you in the next video. Have a good one.